Good evening, Canby. Welcome to the Canby Urban Renewal Agency meeting for June 5th, 2024. I will forego the pleasantries for this council meeting and get right to the agenda. Citizen input and community announcements. Is there anybody online or anybody who's emailed? Nope. And seeing no one in the room and no yellow cards, we'll move right into resolution. Eileen, we want to present this item, please.
Thank you. So commission members, what we need you to do is to make the decision once and for all about where the community park overage is going to be taken from. So we have two resolutions prepared, and one takes the money from the debt service fund within the Urban Renewal Agency, and the other one moves the money from the general fund of the city into the Urban Renewal Agency. And so just depending on which resolution gets adopted, then we will know what we can present to you under the new business, the discussion of urban renewal projects that would be undertaken for the rest of the life of the Urban Renewal Agency. So, Scott, do you want to come up and kind of go through the numbers, and then can we show the council the resolutions? Okay.
Did you need me to take it over?
No. Go
Nope.
ahead.
Stop
Yeah.
sharing? My bad.
No, that's all right.
Okay, so I've stopped sharing. So the two resolutions that are before you, the first one that Eileen had mentioned was the money that's coming from the urban renewal debt service. The first one that we had presented was without regard to when we closed the month of May or in the process of closing May. So we had additional costs coming in that were not accounted for. So the overage is going to require more funding than when we first approached you guys with the 2.25 number. That number has now jumped up to 315. And that's going to be able to cover the amount of overage that was closed out. If that money comes in from the urban renewal debt service fund, there will be really no difference than how the operation works normally with the urban renewal. The money comes in for operations, it gets spended from the general fund side. That's the way that it basically works. If we take option 2, and that's for the general fund to move the transfer over for the 315 over into the general fund, the net effect of that basically means in 2020 fiscal year 24, you reduce the ending fund balance in the general fund, and then our beginning fund balance is now reduced by the $315,000, which means the information that we talked about last week with our 23% now drops down to 21%. And it's the same that we referred to every time you up it by that $155,553. We kind of went through that exercise briefly, and this is basically that net effect of it. You see a $315,000 amount and it drops it down roughly 2%. So, and that's just to cover, like I said, the overage in order to make sure that we have no minimum standard violation for over expenditure.
So just to cover the reason for the overage, we discovered that, as we've been talking about the project, we've been factoring in the Canby excavating portion of the contract, but we have not been factoring in the engineering work that goes along with it. So once we factored in that, all the expenses for Kerr and McLeod, and we went and looked at, the actual amount, appropriated or costed against the line item in the budget, it was far higher, the overage was far higher because we weren't factoring in the engineering expenses, so. So that's the reason for the overage being higher. Do you want to kind of go through and explain the resolutions, then, the numbers?
I can, if you want to scroll down a little bit.
Yeah.
So the resolution, basically, the first one that's presented, that's on your, I believe that's on your screen. Again, it's a transfer in to the general fund, and that transfer in is coming directly from the Urban Debt Service Fund. So that's going to, the appropriation for the debt service fund has to be approved, and then it drops into the general fund, and then you approve basically the resource coming in, and then the approval of the actual appropriation to expend. So that's that first one. The second one is virtually the same, only you'll see it coming from the general fund. So now the general fund will show a transfer out, and then you'll see a transfer into the general fund, URA general fund. And then we have that resource, and then we have that appropriation to be able to spend the additional funding to cover the over expenditure for the project.
So that's how the resolutions work, but essentially the issue is where are you going to take the overage from?
Correct.
General fund or the general fund of the city or the debt service fund of the Urban Renewal Agency?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair.
So a couple questions. So based on what we see here, it's not, the transfer out amount is, or urban renewal amounts, either one, it's not 225, it's 315.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's my first question. Second question. So if we, or clarification, if we move funds, and the city council agrees to move it to urban renewal, you said, well, our reserve will drop down to 21% in that regards. Are there any other budgetary impacts that we will have if it's a council move? If we move the funds from the general fund, are there any other budget impacts?
Any other general fund impacts? Am I following the question?
Yes, sir.
Not that I saw. If you approve the budget, when you have the opportunity, this will be the only change that will impact what we had discussed in the budget committee.
Okay,
So,
great. And then does this trigger a re-meeting of the budget committee to approve a new number? No, we won't have to do that. Okay. So in regards to the urban renewal, if we pull it from, or if we do it within the urban renewal agency, what will that do to future projects? What will that impact look like on the conversations we've had about future projects?
I actually have a spreadsheet that might be able to help that, but I don't know if that's going to be more into the line of the presentation that we have put together for that,
Right.
or we jump right into that.
Okay.
Go through that.
Well, it was kind of my understanding that we were going to be presented with the options, like a menu of options is, I think, was Commissioner Patton's verbiage. So that we knew what the options before us were. We have this much money, we can pay this much of the overage and do these projects, or we could do these projects and pay that much. I think that the resolution and the new business is kind of going hand in hand, at least it is for me. I think
Yeah.
we need to hear all of the options on the table before we make any decisions. How do my colleagues feel about that?
I figured that might be the case and that we'd end up kind of handling these items kind of in tandem rather than one by one. But, at the end of the day, we do need the council or the commission to adopt a resolution.
Correct, and by the end of this meeting, we will do that, but I
Yeah.
think that all the information needs to be presented.
Certainly
so we can
happy
make an
to-
educated decision. Yes,
Yeah.
Commissioner Patton?
In my opinion, I've always hoped that we could just take the overage out of urban renewal first, and then figure out however much money is left over after that, and then sort out those projects from there. And especially if taking this amount out, with as many concerns as we have about our reserve amount, it originally, my thought about, the reasoning for keeping it in urban renewal without taking it out of the general fund was because we would essentially be taking money from parks that is less restricted and using it to cover a fund that is more restricted. And I always prefer to use a more restricted fund first. Now, that coupled with the fact that this would bring the reserve down that much further, pushes me even further towards taking that full overage out of urban renewal, and then with that new total, figure out what projects we can do from there.
Commissioner Stearns?
Are we planning on killing urban renewal anyway? And if we use money out of urban renewal, that just means that it dies quicker?
I prefer the term sunset.
Sunset. Well, yeah, throwing way out.
But yes,
We still have it ending on June 30th of 2026, so it
Just have
doesn't,
less projects that we can
right,
do with urban renewal, and then we'll have to instead do those projects out of
out of the general fund
or other funding sources.
or other funding sources, yes.
But I agree with Councilor Patton. I'm in principle, rather have urban renewal pay for that. If we can do that, then
Commissioner Sassi, any thoughts?
I agree. I just want to get the thing paid and done. I mean, it should have been done a long time ago, I thought. But yeah, let's just get it paid and get it done.
Okay, well, then, I did suggest that we take them in tandem, but if someone's prepared to make a motion, I would hear that.
I'm not sure where the motion actually is.
It's
Is it the,
it's option on page 2 of the urban renewal packet. It's option number 1.
Option number 1.
just as a curiosity, my urban renewal packet I just clicked on is using the 225 number. I don't know. if that-
Yeah,
It has different numbers.
Yeah,
They
you'll have to
changed- they
ignore
had
that
to change it here in the
resolution in
last-
the
Why not?
packet.
I'm supposed to sign says 225 on it, so I'm not signing that one if this passes.
No,
So
My
it's
apologies.
essentially the first resolution listed in the packet.
Correct.
Okay, so with that, I move to adopt UR Resolution 24-002, a resolution adopting a supplemental budget for 2023-2024 fiscal year.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Patton and seconded by Commissioner Sassy to approve UR Resolution 24002 to adopt a supplemental budget for the 23-24 fiscal year. Any discussion? And this will be changed to 315 before I sign this? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Me. So 4 to 1. 401.
okay, with that, then let's go into the presentation, so.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jamie Sickle, Director of Economic Development, and we have a presentation. Oh, it's on the, yeah.
Not me, yeah.
And in the presentation tonight, we're going to be talking about some cash flow projections, and obviously some of these numbers are somewhat fluid. depending on what the ending fund balance is this year and carrying over to next year. So first, we'll have Scott kind of go through the numbers, and he'll be presenting the numbers with the community park overage being paid out of urban renewal, just like you voted on. And so, and then we'll talk a little bit about, thank you so much. Yeah, so the first one is, I know it's going to be a little back and forth.
It's good practice for the back and forth.
And then we'll talk about projects that we've talked about in the past that have been listed as priority projects.
Okay. So this is the cash flow projection that was put together in order to provide you guys with a little bit more perspective on where we're at. The beginning fund balance basically starts off with similar numbers that we had when we projected fiscal year '24 and came to a projection of what it would look like as this fiscal year comes to a close. As of 4/30, the current property taxes were shown at 4.7 million, and as of 5/30, I had updated numbers of prior year property taxes coming in, so that number increased slightly. Interest is an estimated number, and the miscellaneous income is also an actual number that's come in. So all of our revenue plus our beginning fund balance gives us just under a $6 million figure. As we scroll down into the expenditure line items, what we see is the amount that's due to the city, that goes directly to the economic development. We've projected, $9,000 of materials and services, beautification and facade grants, and we have the railroad quiet zone of $1,500, and then we have down at the community park line item, the actual amount is $1,515. That has been expended in the current year. So that's the number that we're basically chasing. And then we have our doesn't matter, you must pay bonds. And so total requirements for our year for projections would be just over 5 million. So we have an ending fund balance to carry forward into our 2025 fiscal year of 964,000. So now when we jump back up to the top and we start with that number, and keep in mind that this is primarily the debt service. Your general fund is not reflected with, we try to have a zero balance in that from year to year. But if we do not expend everything, then we will have an ending fund balance that will roll forward to the top, and we combine those. However, for this particular issue, we did not do that because we're trying to zero out the general fund dollar for dollar. Doesn't always happen, but for projection wise, that's what you're seeing here is simply just debt service. Is there any questions about that particular? Okay. So as we go through, again, these are guesstimated numbers from basically our property tax revenue that's coming in. Interest also is a guess because we have no idea what's going to happen in the market. So we have good dividend returns right now. So I basically reduced it by roughly 20 grand. And I continued that also through the next year into 2026. Unstable, so we're just over $6 million total resources in 25, and as we go through the expenditure line items, what we're able to do here is I can manipulate these numbers based on the way that we want to see projects. So this is our opportunity right now to be able to isolate where we want to see the money go towards, and I will be able to make adjustments in the 2025 year, and then we'll be able to see what happens in fiscal year 26 with remainders.
So just looking at that downtown alleyways project, that is in the, that has, you've seen that figure at 585. So it's dropped down to 500 now. Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So what did we do to get it from 585 to 5?
So that
I'm glad we
includes-
did, but I'm just curious as to, what magic Jerry worked.
That includes the current cost estimate for the paving projects, so the urban renewal district's portion of that is $372,000.
Okay.
And then a little bit of an amount for overage, and Curran McLeod, I think, is the third expense.
So a little value pricing
Right.
or value engineering on the project.
We do expect maybe a few change orders because the alleys are a little tricky.
Sure, okay.
But we feel like that number is going to be solid and not, that we'll have to come back with another supplemental budget for the alleyway project.
So the 372 we heard about in the budget meeting isn't actually 372, we're talking more close to 500.
Correct.
372 for the paving with Eagle Elster,
372 plus 25,000 in engineering, and then we put some extra in case.
25% for the change order.
If we had change orders, so we don't have to come back to you.
Gotcha. Okay,
We're hoping it comes in at no change orders, 372 plus the 25 in engineering.
it's a little over 4. Okay. Commissioner Patton, did you have a question?
Yeah, so in looking at this spreadsheet, there's the 647. That is what we consolidated from potential projects. So essentially, this 647 is what we have to play with this year, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So essentially, if we designate projects down here, if memory serves me correctly, we cannot go over the 647. Because that's what the budget committee approved.
Right, and last week at the budget
So
committee,
you'll
that number was
recognize
720.
this figure that adds them together.
Okay.
That 1.147.
And we
Okay.
consolidated those numbers, as you recall, during the budget committee. We pulled them out in this spreadsheet just so that as we're talking about projects and we're talking about future spending, that we can be clear that 500 of that is going to be tagged for the alleyways, and then the rest is what we have to spend. Just for these purposes, it felt better to pull it out, so that we know how much is in the funds to be able to spend for projects this year or then next year.
So when we say this year, we're talking 24, 25.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And then,
I didn't want to sit thinking that it was going to be done here in 30 days or less than.
and to go along with that question then, in the second column, am I jumping the gun here?
Nope.
In the second column, you have 1.312 million. That's essentially what could be allocated for projects in 2026, 2027.
that's correct.
25.
25.
Or 25, 26, okay. See, I'm already getting ahead of myself by a
If
year.
you spend all of the 647,
If we do.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
And then just, I think that this has been said, but just to make sure that we're saying it, but, that number, that 1.3 million depends on the property taxes that come in, the ending fund balance. So it might look different next year when we're projecting, but we feel like those are pretty safe numbers.
Okay.
and keep in mind, you can move that 647 to the next budget if you want to do a bigger project or something.
Yeah.
The list.
And we have a list of projects, as we said. Do you want us to move to that now?
Unless anybody has any other questions about this.
What's the cost of the debt? What rate is it right now?
What is the rate of the
Yeah.
debt?
Yeah.
That's a great question that I cannot answer right now. I can stop sharing and I can try to go find the actual debt documents and see what that if they gave us a fixed rate.
I think it's pretty low because if memory serves me correctly, all of.
Refinanced it too.
Yeah, it was refinanced and we saved a significant, it was millions of dollars in interest by
Yeah, 6 million.
6 million.
Saved.
saved.
Like it didn't come back into the agency to spend.
Correct, we
Right.
didn't
Just
have to
low-
expend it in
right.
interest.
Yeah.
Because that was a common
That was very.
misconception that we had.
Misunderstanding.
That was like, oh gosh, we got $6 million. No, we don't.
No, we don't.
We saved $6 million by refinancing the debt. So yeah, it is, I want to say it's less than 6. Even, but I won't speculate.
Look forward.
I would say, Commissioner Stearns, is this question leading to your next question, or is this just a data piece that you're wishing for that he can
Well,
maybe
I
email
always
you?
like to say, obviously, an option, I don't know if it is an option, but to accelerate, debt payment. And the question is, what's the rate of return? It's a good baseline to measure, what's the value of just not spending it versus spending it.
It is my understanding we've accelerated as much as we can. We can't pay it off any sooner than the targeted date now.
Oh, I know, that was my kind of what I was getting, say, if we.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I wanted to add push to get it as paid off
No,
the very
not that I
second
really want to do it.
possible.
I like to have that as a baseline, to see what's the value of doing nothing versus doing something.
Okay, yeah, nice. Unless there's anything else, I say we move to the project list.
Can you pull the PowerPoint back up? And also, I'm having trouble with this toggle, what, I don't know what they're called.
Clicker?
Clicker?
The
Remote?
clicker. Let me pull up the PowerPoint.
It's the official
And
term,
I just want to go to
clicker.
the page that has the, like the almost spreadsheet looking, I think it's page 3.
There it was.
It's so fast.
There we go.
Ah.
Yep.
Yes, perfect.
See if you can like.
Need my
Oh,
calculator.
yes, now I can. Great, thank you. Sorry, I'm sorry. I won't move anymore. So do you want me to just, I'll just read over the list, and then if you have any specific questions on any of these projects, they're all projects that we've talked about at Urban Renewal in months and years past. We included the alleyways because this is a project that's forthcoming even though it is already in the works. So upgrade to 8 downtown alleyways, and that's in bold since it is already planned for fiscal year '25. We included the North First Street improvements, and that would be between First Avenue and Second Avenue, $700,000. Again, these are preliminary cost estimates, but we wanted to get numbers in front of you that we think are good, solid numbers. North Grant Street improvements between First Avenue and Second Avenue. An update to Northwest Second Avenue between Grant Street and Elm Street, so to the continuation of the redevelopment that's occurred on Northwest Second. The project Northwest First Avenue between Elm Street and Douglas, so that is the kind of where the continuation from Canby Rental until about the post office, I would say. Then we included the logging trail bridge improvements, the full project at $4 million, bridge painting at $2.5 million, spot painting to cover the rust is $200,000, and then the pathway to connect to Highway 99 at $100,000. And we listed all of those projects. The full project itself would cover the painting and other upgrades, including the pathway. And then on Township Road, the addition of sidewalks from Baker Prairie to Sequoia Parkway. During that section of Canby, it connects to the industrial park. It is right by the Zion Cemetery. And so the upgrade, that won't develop. So the upgrades won't be forthcoming, so it would be able to continue that to Sequoia Parkway. And then lastly, the medallion replacement on Northwest Second Avenue at Ivy, Holly, and Grant. And those are the brick work that's in the middle of the intersections. So those were the projects that we brought forward. And then if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair.
So regarding the pathway portion of the bridge, $100,000, and this is for what aspect of the pathway?
It would be just a real basic paved path with a retaining wall to take pedestrians from like down between the mini storage and the bridge down to 99E. It would just be a path to get people down to the ODOT sidewalk.
Okay.
It's something we kind of, not a sky bridge, like we could go over the tracks or anything like that. But
So it'd be down the other side of it so that people,
yeah, the Millar side of the bridge down there.
and so it'd allow them to get off the trail, come down, and then walk over to the businesses there.
You could
Fred Meyer.
essentially get off our path and have sidewalk to get to Fred Meyer's.
Okay.
And that project came forward as a potential safety enhancement because people access the Fred Meyer parking lot from the logging trail over the train tracks, which we do not encourage anybody to do. But yet it still happens. So it would be a relief to that safety and vandalism concern.
Okay.
I
May I-
wanted to add one more thing if you were done, Vice Chair.
On that one I am, but then I have a couple others. So go ahead.
So the spot painting.
Yes.
We went out and did a real good visual of that after we got talking. And really came to the assessment that the spot painting of the bridge isn't going to help the longevity of it. The rust is starting to come through everywhere when you look close. So the spot painting would only just be for aesthetics, for driving under. and not seeing a big rust spot on the side.
It'd just be
the whole-
polka dot instead.
Yeah, you would have that. So I just wanted to clarify that. The whole bridge is going to need to be painted in the future.
So, because I think we also discussed that there's potentially some repairs to the bridge that need to be looked at and completed, and is that part of that $4 million price tag?
The 4 million takes care of everything to this year's, I think Jamie put that in there to, it was HHPR, the consultant, gave us costs out to 25. And the 4 million does it all, the lights, the paint, the artwork, the path down the side, not the one across the top.
Sure.
And a little bit of like landscaping.
Okay. Of the projects that are listed here, how many of these, if they were a hybrid project of urban renewal and partnering with the city, could we go after some of the state transportation investment fund grants or try to get grant money for that? Which would apply, which project should we put that into that ask in the next couple of years?
That's a great question. The, like with the federal fund exchange money and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah. The North First Street improvements, North Grant Street improvements, Northwest Second Avenue, Northwest First, and Township would be real attractive for that.
That can fall under safe routes to school.
Yeah, just that connectivity, that would be a really popular project, one that I've always wanted to do, so,
My last question,
yep.
and I think I'm being greedy here, and I don't think that we can do it, if I remember my URA or URD rules. If it comes down, because if we're not trying to leave any money on the table, can these projects be funded with urban renewal district funds that carry over into future years?
After this district is closed? No,
Correct.
I don't think so.
No.
Use it or lose it.
See, so that's what I thought, and that's what I would understand it, but I thought I would ask and get it out there, so in case people wanted to see us fund an aspect of the project, but then not spend it and got it. Okay, thank you.
I'm confused, though. I wish I'd brought my budget book with me, because I specifically remember the page, we had $750-some thousand that would have been perceivably saved if we had moved projects from the bridge over to 26 and bring those two projects over to 24. Those numbers were 420 and 300, or they were 400 and 320, but they added to 720. But I'm not seeing those numbers here, so
Would you like my budget?
please, if you have it, then I can see what my mind's eye is seeing.
That's because there have been price increases on those two projects, so they are at
Since 2 weeks ago. Okay.
Yeah, I think the figures that we gave you 2 weeks ago were old. So,
While she's looking, Counselor Stearns was commenting, Commissioner Stearns was complimenting you on being prepared.
Oh, thank you.
And my comment was, well, we're doing things that Jerry loves. These are in his wheelhouse. And so, yes, to get things like this moving and going, Jerry will bring everything in the kitchen sink if need be to answer any questions that we would have. Am I wrong?
No, these are all good projects, so.
Yeah, it was the savings on the 585 that was going to be the 372, we were told, and then the 562 for the bridge. Those added up to where that savings could have paid for, oh, I don't have the 26 list on here, though. You have 320 and 400 written down here, though.
Do
So
I?
so you were listening that night to the same thing I was,
Okay.
because you're a little chicken scratching down here.
Sorry.
Says 320 and 400. And I think that was for, one of them was the First Street, but there was two different projects.
Yeah, and I apologize too, because these.
Because First Street wasn't
we-
700 before, I
We
didn't think.
we gave accurate updated prices to the projects, and that changed.
So it went from 400 to 700, or is this two projects combined?
What, no, it went up. And so,
Almost double. Holy cow.
yeah,
And the second project I think that we discussed was the Second Avenue redevelopment.
Well,
Which would
the
continue.
medallions?
No, it's the Northwest
Oh, on
Second
here, Grant to
Avenue.
Elm, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's significantly higher as well.
just to touch on the top two, First Street improvements in Grant Street, those are kind of really good projects. As you know, Commissioner Hensley, the Legion, didn't get their sidewalks finished and all that. And then Grant Street, also, we got the arch done. We did up a little ways and stopped the sidewalks. And so we didn't connect first and second. Those two, we got updated prices and saved numbers to do those and threw them in there.
So we're talking a total of 1.8 million, we have 647.
Yeah.
Oof.
So to do those two projects, we seriously need to wait until next year to do any of it. We need to save that 700 over to next year.
Yeah. The other one I wanted to bring up real quick that when Jamie brought this list back, I got really excited about is, I don't know if you remember when Rick Robinson was working on Northwest First Avenue
Yes.
and finishing that down to the music shop, because the music shop's another one that's never gonna have sidewalks and stuff. And I got really excited about that, thinking about that, talking to our management team today. And that would be another one to push into the next year. And then if that number, say that project came in at what did you say we had if we didn't do anything for the two?
647?
If we didn't do anything this budget, wait until the next, we would.
Then we add
Well, it's
almost 2 million.
647,
It'd be $1.959 million.
enough to do First Street and Second, because everything will go up again in a year.
Yeah, and then if we did go in a little over, we budget after we get engineering costs and all that, and we fund the rest of it out of streets or federal fund exchange or something like that. And then if you guys decided you wanted to spend all of it, those would be good projects to do that on.
Okay, well,
But
I'm unhappy because apparently we're not going to get done what I was hoping to do tonight, but okay. Commissioner Patton?
So I guess for me, I've just sort of been, because for transparency's sake, I did get a glance at this particular slide ahead of the street maintenance task force. And I was looking at these numbers and I was like, well, what's weird is, if we have Northwest Second Avenue is $1.1 million, there's enough funds here that we could eat up more than what we have available. And something was mentioned that there is a possibility that these projects could be spread out over other funding sources, correct?
correct.
That being said, in kind of looking at this and based on what you were just saying, are you saying that you are pretty confident that the township sidewalks, that $350,000 could come from a different funding mechanism other than?
Gas tax or federal fund exchange.
I would prefer federal fund exchange because we need the gas tax to use for other areas.
That's why having to do all the ADA improvements is what takes away our gas
hampered
tax
this.
for
Got it.
projects like this.
Correct. So the next question, I'd like to at least finish my train of thought with all of this. And this is a question for Scott. If we decide that we do not have enough, well, no, we can't do that, right? No, you can't do that. No, okay, never mind. So when I look down through this list, these are the things that entice me the most. The logging road bridge pathway. I really want to deal with that bridge paint, but I just don't see doing it through this. I think we have to come up with a much more long-range plan for dealing with that somehow, some other way. So, but to me, the logging bridge path has been a safety concern for quite some time now, and I think it would be good to, that is attractive to me. The medallions downtown are also another attractive project for me. And then with that, if you did those two, what would be left of the total over the course of the 2 years would be 1.4 million, 1.409 million. And if you did those two, if you did North Fir and North Grant, it would be about 1.4, it would be $1.4 million. And I will say this, when I said in the budget committee meeting that if the community park overage was taken out solely out of urban renewal and not from the general fund, I would be willing not to spend the amount of urban renewal down to zero. Technically, it would leave about $10,000 in urban renewal unspent.
Except it
So,
won't, because all these prices will be higher next year.
well, that's a different story.
And that's where I go, maybe we have to mix some street funds in to finish them.
Yeah. So,
Decided that.
so to me, that is, if you were polling me for what my thoughts were, those are my thoughts.
Okay, I would agree with you, except the medallions aren't a big deal for me. I wouldn't, yeah, they'd be nice, but I would rather save that money and make sure that we can fund the safety stuff. Yes, Vice Chair, do you have a question?
I do, but go ahead to Commissioner Stearns first.
Commissioner Stearns, do you have a question?
I like to agree with Pat. I think the pathway is a big safety issue, and it's a big service to people who live in that area. To be able to have an off-ramp from the path to get to the 99, I think at least provide a much safer option for transportation. I'm wondering though, at a certain point, when does the logging trail become like a viaduct or a street? Because at a certain point, the purpose of the logging trail is for transportation and not necessarily for recreation. So that's something that I think should be considered about that logging trail. And then as a question, when's the last time that logging trail bridge has been inspected?
We have it inspected by ODOT every 2 years.
And so what do they anticipate the lifespan of it right now without?
It just, I haven't really dug into the details, but eventually it's gonna need some. I think we're 10 years out of having to do anything major on it.
Well, there's not a lot of load on that.
It still is rated for
Yeah.
250 tons or whatever they rate it at, and, but right now it's the paint's starting to fall off of it. There's nothing structurally unsafe. It's just,
Yeah, but the rust will eventually.
that's what I was telling our city administrator today. In 10 years, we better have that thing plan and figure out how to, within 10 years or something, we better do something.
So whatever happened, I think at least this year, we should do the pathway. And the other stuff, I'm agnostic about the timing of it, but like I said, I think that would be a big service towards safety and a viable walking, biking route from basically Territory to Baker Prairie, middle school, being able to go shopping and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
May I ask a clarifying question of Commissioner Patton? Because I hear you saying this year for pathway. Did you say logging ridge, pathway, and the medallions in the fiscal year 25, and then North Fir and North Grant in 2026?
That's essentially how it would be split. What I was hoping could happen, but knowing that we can't really borrow, like we only have that, we can only work with that 600 and some odd $1,000, not just because, and correct me if I'm wrong, not just because that's what the budget committee approved, but that is the total amount that we have to play with of what's coming in and what's going out, right? Because for me, what I would love to see is to do the two big ticket road projects this year, but that's an addition, that's like another $1.4 million, and that money just isn't there. So that's a bummer.
We could try to split hairs and say that we have 426,000 extra dollars. That would put you at zero in 2025, and then we'd only be able to play with very little amounts in 2026. But again, these are projections for 25 and 26, because we don't know property taxes, we don't know interest.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the safe number, that 1.147 million, I think, is kind of a safety. And then whatever is left in 26 is kind of like, now let's try to get down to $10,000.
So yeah, for me, what you were saying is with what money we have to play with this year, the two little projects, the pathway and the rondelles, or the medallions, the reason I figure the medallions is we've removed one of them, haven't we?
No, there's 3 of them there, so it's 450,000 to do all 3.
I thought there was 4 and one had been removed at some point in time.
Not in my time.
I just know that driving over them, similar to how paving and stuff degrades over time, all those pavers and that brick is gonna degrade quickly as well. And so if it's possible to get them yarded out now, it'd be better. So, yeah. And then earmark the next year's funds, like carry over a little and then have enough for next year to do those two big road projects.
Vice Chair.
Thanks. So somewhat of a, not somewhat, but total tongue in cheek for the medallion piece, we could sell the bricks.
On like Craigslist?
No, like,
Facebook Marketplace?
no, people like, you can
Buy a
like,
brick.
No bricks, no bricks, get
No
rid
more
of
bricks.
them.
no, I know, but I'm saying after the fact. Pay for the brick and you get to take a piece of candy home with you. Okay, so, thank you for, I'll be here all weekend. Of the road projects that are listed here, what can be combined with funds from the city in the 25-26 budget?
Like, what,
Like street maintenance.
street,
Is it just street maintenance funds and,
street gas tax funds, street reserves, all of the street projects. The path is a park, so it can't. The bridge painting, no. The medallion replacement could be paid for out of streets. Township road sidewalks, we talked, it's more, we'd have to have a little bit, but yeah, just all the street projects.
So those top 4,
Yeah.
after the alleyways, but the top 4 street projects and then the medallion replacement could use.
Could
street
use
maintenance
a combo
and
if-
or
okay.
gas tax. For sidewalks.
so the spot painting to cover the rust is just to cover it, it's not to,
It would just, you just wouldn't see, it's, the whole bridge is gonna start rusting through. You're gonna start seeing it everywhere.
so we're gonna see it everywhere to,
That's what I wanted to go out and confirm that, because I didn't want to go.
so we couldn't address the rusting areas so that the paint is,
All of it, the whole underneath, if you, that's what, I really looked at it on both sides today, and it's the whole thing, rust is poking through on it, so.
does it change the price if it's something, and I mean this part I mean seriously, if it were some sort of like something artisan painted over the rust spots that incorporates them so that it's not just green paint covering the rust spots?
You mean just repaint them over everything, or what?
No, I think he's saying that if we were to bring somebody in to do something maybe more creative
Oh.
with the rust spots.
Yeah,
It would cost more, but still lasts, right? It doesn't fix anything.
it doesn't fix it, which is, I mean, it doesn't, won't do anything, but it,
Hide the ugliness.
it gives a little bit of hiding to the ugly.
A lot of that cost also, if I'm remembering correctly, is like the ODOT right-of-way and needing to have flaggers. And so the cost of the actual paint isn't
It's the-
extraordinary, it's what you have to do to support that. And so with the, whether it was an artisan, as you said, or having someone that is spot painting, either way, the cost will probably be pretty similar for most of it, and then maybe even more expensive if you're having an artisan.
Just so silent.
$4,500 a day for traffic control.
Well, then,
Yikes.
and don't forget, you gotta build the fancy, thing over the
Scaffolding and all.
railroad so that a drop of paint doesn't go in the engine and cause the whole thing to blow up, because that's apparently a thing.
Okay.
Okay,
Anything else?
The good news is.
no, these are my, that's, I'm just trying to,
Vice Chair, is we're gonna have to do something with that bridge, but it's just not gonna be through urban renewal.
And Jerry was even suggesting maybe like go, taking a group out there to go and look at it up close just to see the decline, because he said it paints a different picture.
Get underneath it and look up, and, it does. And now that the traffic control has kind of died down, I was able to get out there and look at it without getting run over, so,
Oh, that's good.
yeah.
well, if we're looking at projects, Madam Chair, to me, trying to do the pathway down is important because I think it is a safety aspect for our community, but it's also a safety component for the railroad, so that might help alleviate some of that. I mean, I know they're going to be putting the fence up along there, but I still think that there will be people that will find some way to traverse the fence and create their own path. But maybe if we provide one, it won't be so bad. But then also access to Canby Marketplace and that shopping center there. So that piece I'm for. I'm still just, the bridge is tough to look at, and it has been for a decade.
Yeah.
And even I'm trying to balance, is it lipstick on a pig, or is it going to actually do something that at least cleans it up a little bit so it's not so sightly? I don't know. Beyond that, the medallions I'm okay with.
Vice Chair Hudson, that wasn't on the original list. That's a request by you.
What?
The medallions, that's why I put it on there a while ago. Just letting you know.
Was that?
Yes.
The historical request, apparently.
Jeez, well, of course you remember that.
I do,
Jerry.
yeah.
Jeez. Okay, I might not be opposed to medallions then.
Just saying.
Okay, before I give my 2 cents, Commissioner Sassy, you have
No, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I'm good then. Apparently I'm medallions. I might be on board with the medallions.
Alleyway's number one, and let's do the pathway. I was gonna say that will maybe appease the railroad people a little bit, so we're still under budget, so I like those two.
Okay, well, the alleyways are already decided and budgeted. So my things are First Street and Grant, mostly because of the safety there. I mean, we're broken shoulders to be knee before we'll fix it. I can get on board with the pathway, but I really don't want to spend anything on medallions yet. And I'm not saying no forever, but I'm saying we already saw these numbers jump immensely in a couple of weeks' time from one report to the next. So I don't want to spend anything but the pathway this year. And then let's take another look at it next year with next year's numbers and prioritize what we have left. But First Street has to happen in my book.
Chair Hensley, too, just saying that we're kind of going in that direction of doing some small stuff this year and some more the next. Looks like everyone's going that way. By doing that avenue, we'll be able to see what all these projects come in, and they might leave more money for the following year for stuff too. Just because if the alleyways come in where they're supposed to, and the path comes in under budget,
Well, if the alleyways
it
come in
would
where
leave you
they're,
more money for 26 budget.
right, if the alleyways come in where they're supposed to,
Yeah.
and not where we have them now, because we did have a different number a couple weeks ago, then possibly we can get the ball rolling on First Street earlier than next year.
Correct.
That would be my preference. Commissioner Patton?
Yeah, so first, yes, if we could do one of these,
First or fir?
You mean
We got
Fir,
both.
North Fir.
well, a part of me is like, if we save money on the alleys and can do first, either I don't, Fir or whatever, I don't care which one, they're both the same amount. And do that this year, then I would prefer to prioritize the big number now to save money knowing that it's gonna go up next year, right? And push some of the smaller projects over. But if that doesn't happen and we only really have that, and we don't have the $700,000 to do those projects, I would like to try and get as much done this year, rather than waiting to try and get it all done in the final year. And as far as, picking some stuff, picking, one project tonight and then working on the others later, one of the things that we had said is the goal tonight is to pick the projects, to identify the projects and vote on those so that Jerry can figure that out. And, if there needs to be some adjustment next year, maybe, but those are the projects that we're going to be focusing on. Rather than saying, let's do the pathway this year and then look at this again, look at all these projects again next year. I am advocating for us to set the projects for both this year and next year tonight. And the reason I push that is because I have now watched this happen several times where we say, oh, we're going to get back to that, and then we don't, and it becomes a problem later on down the road. So that's why I'm advocating for picking the list of projects this year and next, and that's that.
Okay.
Okay, yes, Commissioner Stearns.
One question I have, and just a hypothetical, if we were to budget, and just say 350,000 for the First Street and have it start in, June, could we then have the choice to do another 350 in July? I mean, just as a, could we split some of it
As
over?
long as the money is expended on the project in the year that it's budgeted, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm saying is like, we have something that maybe exceed the budget for this year, but could you start it, even though the complete project may exceed the budget, we can start it?
They have to be appropriated.
Yeah.
So if you appropriate 350 in 25 and appropriate in 26, then yes. But if you only appropriate a certain dollar amount, and then you want to try to go back and spend money, then we have to come back and do a resolution supplemental in order to get funding to appropriate.
Okay, so I'm just saying is if that's an option, is take a project that we can't quite make it this year, but just say, we'll start it late enough to where it won't actually need to be completely funded.
It follows the appropriation, so we can split it up however the committee feels necessary, the council feels necessary. But you don't want to go over it unless you come back and do a supplemental or resolution if you have contingencies to cover it. So, and I think that's where you get Jerry caught in a hard rock and a hard place is if it goes over, then now where are we pulling the money from in order to cover it in that fiscal year? I think that's the only caveat is trying to split it between fiscal years, playing that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm just saying that if that's an option for tonight's side.
Okay. Madam Chair?
Yes, sir. You have another question?
Nope, I was just hoping to start either if it's a motion or it's a consensus builder.
Well,
That's not a bad
It
idea
seems like we
either.
have consensus around pathway.
I can get behind First Street or Grant.
Okay,
Jerry, which is FER's the bigger problem?
Yep.
Okay.
okay, so fur.
That's a good project.
Okay, I'm just going to poll. Commissioner Stearns, you indicated interest in the pathway. Is there another project on there that you'd like to bump up the priority list?
I'm actually agnostic on the rest of them. Maybe First Street be the next one if we can afford it.
Okay.
But I think Pathway's the first priority.
Commissioner Sassy.
First Street, third, yeah.
Sorry.
I guess for me, it would be the pathways, North First Street, then North Grant, and then the medallions.
Yeah.
I could probably get on board with that if Jerry, can you, well, no, they're all 7 figures. We won't
Yeah.
afford that. So I'm good with that list. I think that do we need a motion or can we go by consensus?
I think you can go by consensus.
What I see is the list is the pathway for Grant and the medallions, if there's money left. Maybe it's only one of them, we don't know.
So the pathway in 25,
Yes,
and
sir.
then the other one's in
And
26.
for if we can squeak it in, if
Oh,
we have
try to do it,
savings.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
if we
that's
can
good.
squeak it in, if not, then we'll
Yeah,
carry
if I
those
got-
over to the next
If I
one.
got to go ahead to start looking into that, I'll have accurate, hopefully it's cheaper than that.
Great.
Estimates.
Okay. All right.
You good?
I'm good.
You guys all have what you need from us?
I do, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, thank you, Jerry, Jamie, Scott. Any other, for the good of the order? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the Urban Renewal Agency meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Vice Chair Hudson, seconded by Commissioner Patton. It's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll take a little break between urban renewal and the council meeting. Thank you, Canby.
Good evening, Canby. Welcome to the, June 5th City Council regular meeting. Before we stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance, I understand that we've got a lot on our agenda this evening, and though I appreciate the signs and whatnot being brought in, and we don't have any policy that says that we cannot have them, but I do ask that if they do become distracting, so waving, and of whatnot like that, then we will take a pause and the signs will need to come down. So we have business to do and we want to make sure that everyone is heard fairly and adequately. So do ask that your comments when the time does come are made to me, the mayor, and not directed at any one particular person, either in the audience or up here on the dais. The joys of being in the big chair is that all those things get to come to me. So, and it's intended that way. So without further ado, we move on. So if you please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Father, I thank you so much for this great community. I especially want to thank all of the people and leaders that are joined here this evening. I pray that we all remember that it is the city of Canby, and that at the end of the day, we all live, work, play, and use Canby as our home. I ask for safety and prayers and praise and congratulations for our graduating seniors here on Friday. That you protect them, that you lead them, and take them safely into the next chapters of their life. I also pray for everyone here to be happy, be safe, and be healthy. I ask these things in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda, we get to swear in some new officers into our police force. And George, I think you're here to help with that.
I am.
Fabulous.
So Gordon doesn't get mad at me, right?
There you go.
A little bit. I do speak loud sometimes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. George Stowe, Chief of Police. Tonight is very exciting. We are swearing in 2 new officers, and we really appreciate you guys letting us do this in front of the council because we think it's super important to us. First one, I'm going to introduce in no particular order of preference, just by alphabet. So, Carl Beckert, will you come on up here? Stand kind of close to the mic. Sure. Okay, I would like to introduce you to one of our newest officers, Carl Beckert. Carl was hired on January 16th, 2004, and he graduated from the police academy just a few weeks ago on May 24th. He is currently in the field training phase, working with a field training officer, and I think his field training officer is here back there. So he's applying what he learned at the academy to real world scenarios. A little bit about Carl. He was born and raised in Beaverton, went to Beaverton High School. He went on to play baseball at Lynn Benton Community College and then on to Concordia University. After some time in the landscaping and design and sales business, he wanted to pursue a career that mattered to him. He was motivated to pursue law enforcement because he wants to make a positive impact on the lives of the people in the community. One of Carl's goals is to be a member of the interagency SWAT team. He wants to actively be involved with community outreach activities in our city, which is great to hear. In his spare time, he enjoys golf, working out, spending time with family and friends, and exploring different breweries around the Pacific Northwest. Carl is married to Caitlin, who is here tonight. And they are expecting their first child. So
Congratulations.
My guess is your golf days are numbered, but.
As long as she can't walk, I can put her in the stroller.
The other thing I wanted to mention is Carl's brother is an Oregon State Trooper, but don't hold that against Carl. All right, you can sit down for now, and then I'm going to have our next officer before I actually swear in with the judge. Roger Montez, come on up. So this is another new officer, Roger Montez. He was hired a week after Carl, January 22nd of this year, and he also attended the academy with Carl and graduated from there on May 24th. He's also currently in the field training program, and his coach is watching his every move back there. So, a little bit about Roger. He was born and raised in McMinnville and went to McMinnville High School. He is fluent in Spanish, has 2 dogs, a Chihuahua and an Old English Bulldog.
Nice.
He enjoys hanging out with family, doing projects around the house, and working on his vehicles. After working in the automotive detail business, he decided to make a leap to law enforcement. It has been a dream of his to be an officer from an early age. He remembers watching cops in movies and on TV and wanted to be just like them. As long as it wasn't like Training Day or The Shield, we should be good. All right, that's good.
Bad boys, does that work?
He chose law enforcement because he wants to have a positive impact on our community and wants to help keep people safe. He chose Canby due to the family atmosphere and strong support from our community. His goal is to be a traffic safety officer and a drug recognition expert. Man of my own heart, awesome. Roger is married to Viridiana. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Yes, also known as Viri.
Yes.
Right here. So they are also expecting a child soon. And I think you have a couple other family members you want to introduce.
Yes. Got my father-in-law, mother-in-law, my sister, brother-in-law, so got people watching too, so.
Yeah.
Awesome. Family,
All right.
nice.
Carl, come back up. Judge, can you do the honors, please?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I can. So why don't you come on up over here so we're close to the microphone. This is your last chance. Okay, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Carl Becker,
Officer Montes, Roger Montes.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and uphold the constitutions
that I will support and uphold the Constitution
of the United States and the state of Oregon,
of the United States and the state of Oregon,
the charter and ordinances of the city of Canby,
the charter and ordinances of the city of Canby,
remaining in compliance with the professional standards established
remaining in compliance of the professional standards and
by the department's mission,
by the department's mission,
values, and professional code of ethics,
values and professional
codes
of ethics,
department policies and directives,
department policies and directives,
and will faithfully perform the duties
and will faithfully perform the duties
of the police officer for the city of Canby, Oregon,
of the police officer for the city of Canby, Oregon,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
There you go.
One more.
None of those are right.
All right, last thing we do is we actually pin the
Thanks,
badge
Judge.
on the officers, and I believe their wives are going to come up and pin their badges on them.
Perfect.
And these are brand new badges with their actually DPS's team assigned a number, so. Yep, come on. Thanks, guys. Welcome to the City of Canby. Is there anything you guys would like to say?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the council, to the mayor, to the judge, and to some of the citizens here that are here today, and the Canby Police Department for entrusting me with this responsibility. It's much more than a job. It's a very serious career path, and it is a responsibility. And so I want to show up every day and do the best I can for this community.
Times two, what he said, and also to add on is, I know we're second safest city in Oregon, so that's amazing. So we can get it up there, number one with our team back there, Canby Police and everybody. Once again, thank you guys. We're happy to be here and continue doing our job.
Thank you, Chief. Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome to the City of Canby. Appreciate it. We will pause for a moment if the officers are looking to go and their families, or you're more than welcome to stay and hang out and watch the city council meeting. I know that Sergeant Sharmoda loves doing that.
Such a hard decision.
I know.
Yeah, she's like, nah, the moms are like, I know.
Okay, refreshments at the PD. Any other takers? Yeah, like that.
What? Refreshments at the.
Thank you. All right. Next on our agenda this evening is new employee introductions.
We do not have any
We don't
tonight.
have any, okay. 2 new officers, that's good. Next on the agenda is citizen input and community announcements. This is an opportunity for audience members to address the city council on items that are not on the agenda. If you are attending in person, please complete a yellow testimony card right here. They're located on the podium there in the back. Please fill it out and bring it over here to our deputy city recorder and our city recorder. If you want to speak virtually, please contact the deputy city recorder by 4:30 on the days of our city council meetings, and we will make sure that you are given time to speak. Again, you are allotted 3 minutes to address the council, sorry, not just address the council, but address the mayor. If there's something that we can address this evening, we will do so. If not, we will make note of it and carry it over to further conversation, either myself with the city administrator or for a future agenda item. At this time, I have a yellow card for Christy Smith, who wants to address the council on the Juneteenth proclamation. Good evening, Christy.
Good evening. Okay. Hello. First, I just wanted to say thank you to Mayor Hodson, President Hensley, and Councilor Padden for meeting with me. I really appreciate that, and I look forward to more meetings. But I'm here tonight to read a Juneteenth proclamation, so I'm going to get started. Whereas Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day, commemorates June 19th, 1865, the day when Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas to announce the end of slavery 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. And whereas Juneteenth marks a significant milestone in American history, symbolizing the liberation of enslaved African Americans and the beginning of a new era of freedom and equality. And whereas Juneteenth serves as a time to reflect on the injustices of the past, honor the resilience and perseverance of African Americans, and celebrate the contributions they have made to our nation's culture, society, and progress. And whereas Juneteenth is a day to affirm our commitment to racial justice, equality, and inclusion, and to continue the ongoing fight against systemic racism, discrimination, inequality in all its forms. And whereas the City of Canby recognizes the importance of acknowledging and commemorating Juneteenth as a time for education, reflection, and unity, and is committed to promoting diversity, equity, and justice for all its residents. Now therefore, we, the citizens of the City of Canby, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2024 as Juneteenth in the City of Canby, and urge all residents to honor this day by participating in community events, reflecting on its significance, and committing to the ongoing work of building a more just and equitable society for all.
Thank you, Christy. Next card I have is for Fred Youngbluth. Did I say that right? Thank you, sir. Topic is sexual harassment and from the union. Hello, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Hodson and Council. My name is Fred Youngluth, and I come to you tonight as the president of ASME Local 350 and ASME Council 75. ASME represents 39,000 workers statewide, and specifically those who work for the City of Canby. Upon taking office, you all should have signed a member statement attesting to the policies and operating guidelines for the members of the Canby City Council. Included in that is a section on council members interacting with city staff. In fact, that section says that council members are, quote, encouraged to avoid substantive contact with staff below the departmental director to avoid possible disruption of work, confusion on priorities, and limited scope of responsibilities. Primary responsibility for following these guidelines and just general decency are with the individuals on the council, but the chairs of boards and commissions and the mayor have additional responsibility to intervene when actions of council members that appear to be in violation of the policies and operating guidelines that have been brought to their attention. Earlier this year, a member of ours who works for the City of Canby came forward with a serious allegation of sexual harassment against one of your members. HR investigated this allegation and sustained that he had violated the city's sexual harassment policy. You were all made aware of this situation during executive session, and to date, you have done nothing to hold this member accountable. This is unacceptable. Everyone, regardless of gender or job title, has the right to work in an environment that is free from unwanted touch or comments about their body. The City of Canby is no exception. This is not the 1950s, when women had no recourse to sexual harassment in the workplace. We have come a long way in the past 70 years. Society does not consider a person's dignity to be the price to provide for their family. I want to take the opportunity to call out the bravery of our member who came forward. Nearly 75% of the workplace sexual harassment is not reported. Seeing the response from this council, it is hard to understand why. Our member knew her dignity, the dignity of every other woman who may come in contact with this counselor was at stake. She took the brave step to file a complaint against a powerful man to hopefully hold him accountable for his behavior. She had faith that this council would be disgusted as she was with this conduct, and you will hold him accountable. What she found instead was deafening silence. Our member did not decide to have her workspace invaded. Our member did not decide to have their workflow disrupted. Our member did not decide to have their personal space violated. However, once each and every one of you sitting on the council did decide to run for office, to be chosen by the citizens of Canby, to be held to a higher standard, to know what is right and what is wrong, and to lead the city with the knowledge. In order to lead, there must be trust. When one of you breaks that trust, it is up to the rest of you to hold them accountable. True leadership comes from doing the right thing, even when it's difficult. I'm wrapping up. Even when it's difficult. We are asking you that you find the same bravery that our member did and stand up for the dignity of all workers by expelling Councillor Sassy for his inexcusable behavior. And the city council no longer has the luxury to be silent, as to be silent is to be complicit. The time for ignorance is past, and we demand courageous, decisive, and public action now.
Great, thank you. Thank you for coming and reading your letter. And that's, at this point, due to the nature of what's occurring, legal counsel does have and is aware of the situation, and we are handling it through those channels. So thank you for being here this evening and for sharing your letter.
All right, thank you.
Yep. All right. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt approve the consent agenda that includes the minutes of the May 1st, 2024, and the May 15th, 2024 work session and city council meeting minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Patton to approve the consent agenda, which include the minutes, the May 1st, 2024 and May 15th, 2024 work session and regular city council meeting minutes. Any questions or thoughts? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. Moving into ordinances and resolutions. The first one this evening is ordinance number 1621, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with Herd Farms for removal of waste sludge to a second reading tonight. And so what this is every year, every other year, we review the contract with Herd Farms, and they take care of our basically, as it says, our wastewater sludge, and takes it to their farm down in
Roseburg. Yes. This is our annual.
I'm pausing on purpose.
Oh, okay.
This is one of those fun things that we as a council get to discuss. So it's pretty, I don't think I've left anything out, have I,
No,
Eileen?
this is what we as municipal governors do, is poop potholes and purse strings. So I move to adopt ordinance number 1621, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Herd Farms for sludge removal at the City of Canby wastewater treatment plant for $105 a ton.
Second.
Motion has been made by Council President Hensley and seconded again by Councilor Patton to approve ordinance number, I lost it, 1621, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Herd Farms for sludge removal at the City of Canby wastewater treatment plant for $105 per ton. Any question or discussion? Yes, Councilor Patton.
So I like to take this opportunity, considering we are talking about this topic, to remind people, both in the audience and the community that might be watching, that flushable wipes are not flushable. Do not flush those things down the toilet. It only makes the system screwed up. And so please be sure that you throw the flushable wipes out. Do not flush them down the toilets.
False advertising.
That's all.
Thank you for that. Any other comments?
No.
Okay. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, whoops, that's right.
Thank you for so kindly
I
pointing
tried to
that
do
out.
it twice quietly, but no one was listening.
Roll call vote. Teresa.
Counselor Sassy,
Aye.
Counselor Stearns,
Aye.
Council President Hensley,
Aye.
Counselor Maldonado,
Aye.
Counselor Patton,
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next on the agenda is ordinance number 1622, an ordinance awarding the construction contract with Eagle Elsner Incorporated in the amount of $1,120,120 for construction of the 2024 street maintenance and urban renewal agency improvement project to a second reading tonight, June 5th, 2024. Second reading. Yes, Counselor Patton.
I'd like to move to adopt ordinance number 1622, an ordinance awarding the construction contract with Eagle Elsner Incorporated in the amount of $1,120,120 for construction of the 2024 street maintenance and URA improvement projects.
Second.
So motion's been made by Counselor Patton and second by Counselor Maldonado to approve ordinance number 1622, an ordinance awarding the construction contract with Eagle Elsner Incorporated in the amount of $1,120,000. Sorry, $1,120,120 for construction of the 2024 street maintenance and urban renewal agency improvements project. Roll call vote.
Counselor Sassy.
Aye.
Counselor Stearns.
Aye.
Council President Hensley.
Aye.
Counselor Maldonado.
Aye.
Counselor Patton.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Our next ordinance this evening is ordinance number 1623, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Polar Systems Incorporated of Westland, Oregon, to provide managed IT services for the City of Canby to, again, for a second reading on June 19th of 2024. Mr. Wood, good evening.
Good evening. Todd Wood, Transit IT Fleet Director, until whatever else Eileen gives me to do. You'll have to bear with me for a minute, and I apologize. This is a little bit longer than you probably want. But I just want to let you know that I have a few things to cover.
Take what you need, sir.
I've been at a director level for about 6 years. In that time, I've done a number of RFPs, from transit operations to software to hardware to all kinds of service levels for this city as well as a county before. My goal when doing an RFP is always the same. It's to get the best value proposition for the organization I work for. I take pride in what I do. I work very hard, and my staff works very hard to get what we believe is the best value for the city. And this isn't any exception. I want to run through you what we did over the last few months so that there's a good understanding of the process. I've never done an IT RFP before, specifically for managed service providers. So as such, when I hit an RFP I've never done before, the first thing we do is look for somebody who's already done it, because why reinvent the wheel? So we found a city that had done a recent managed service RFP, and my staff adapted it to our city. We went through and made sure that it fit our equipment, and then I sent it over to Weston Pay, the city of Lake Oswego. For those who don't know him, he is the CTO of Lake Oswego. His extensive experience and background in this, and he's also a citizen of the City of Canby. And he reviewed it to make sure that it would meet the needs of the city. And then after that, he sent it back to me, and I sent it to the attorney. The attorney reviewed it to make sure it was legal and met the needs of the city and followed our policies. And then I gave it to Eileen, and she reviewed it and then gave me permission to send it out. When we send these things out, we post them on the website. We send them to anybody who's already expressed interest. Somehow the word always gets out. We usually get some. And then we send it to the Business Journal. I generally leave my RFPs open for about 4 weeks. I want to give everybody enough time to read it, review it, ask questions, and then submit their proposals. During that time period, I usually get a number of questions. In this case, it was how many computers do you have? What operating system are you running? What's your what type of firewalls? I answer all those questions by listing them all out on a document and posting that document on the website so that every single vendor has the equal opportunity to look at what the questions were, so that nobody has an advantage over anybody else. Between that time and the closing the RFP, I usually look for people that can help me score these things. I look for people that have some experience in RFPs, or somebody who can just be an extra body who has some experience. The closing date is firm and the time is firm. If it's at 5 o'clock and you put it in at 5:01, you don't get it considered. Most companies turn it in within an hour or two of the closing time. It's pretty common. The Friday, I usually do mine on Fridays, I get multiple RFPs at once. Sometimes they carry them in, sometimes they email them in, it depends. After I don't look at any submissions. If some people turn them in early, they sit on a shelf. I never open them, I don't look at them, I don't check them until the very last closing minute. Everybody gets looked at the same time. I open them all, I look through them for completeness to make sure that they've met just the basic requirements of the RFP. And then I gather them all together and I send them to the team that I've compiled to review those RFPs, each individually. And I send them a score sheet that I built based on the way the RFP was written. So each individual then goes through each RFP individually and scores them based on their own merits. So there's no comparison, this one to that one, that one to this one. It's based on their own merits, based on what's in the RFP. They're each scored. They then send their scores to me and only me. Nobody else sees the scores at that point. Once I have all the scores together, I build a composite score sheet. I put everybody's score in there, and then I average them. And then I remove the names of the scorers, and I send them to the people who participated so that they know their score, but they don't know who scored the other ones the other way. And then I call them and we set up a meeting and we have a discussion about exactly what the scores look like and why. At that point, we decide whether or not we want to take it the next step, whether we want to review them in an interview or have them do a presentation. I generally only do presentations or interviews if the scores are close, or if there's unanswered questions, or if none of the RFPs really hit the mark. So like, for instance, the last transit RFP I did, we had a couple that were just really close. They did a great job, and we want to differentiate between the two. In this particular RFP, that wasn't the case. Polar Systems came in. They hit every mark in our that we had laid out. They did it incredibly professionally. It was well done. Their price was the best price. So it was pretty easy for us. When you looked at the average scores, which I believe you all have, they were well ahead above the rest. And the discussion was, do we have an interview? And if so, what do we expect to gain? And the answer was, well, we probably wouldn't gain much because the gap was too large to overcome. So at that point, we don't do an interview. We take that information. And that information is the information I had to gain to give you the opportunity to decide whether or not you went with a managed service provider internally. Because if I don't know what they're providing and how much they're providing it for, then I can't really give you apples to apples comparisons. So that process, at the directing of my city manager, was completed before I came to you. And then I present the information so you know that when we're looking at internal employees versus external employees, these aren't pie in the sky numbers. Honestly, if I had given a guess, I would have brought in the managed service contract lower because I thought it was going to come in lower than that. Came in higher than I expected. Costs have gone up, so I shouldn't be surprised. But it was, but they were all in the same ballpark, so I knew that they were pretty close. And then after that meeting, I was directed to move forward with the managed service provider, which Eileen directed me then to complete the RFP process. Today represents the end of that RFP process, where I present to you all the information and you make a choice of whether or not you want this contract. So why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this because my staff and I work very hard to make sure that we do everything on the level, that we follow the rules and the policies set forth in the city, and that when we come to this place, we know that everything we've done is appropriate and we're giving you the best proper value for the city. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, there's been a strange effort to undermine a process. I don't understand it. It's the first time it's happened to me, and I don't like it. And I want to let you know that I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in the efforts that have been taken. I'm disappointed in the meetings that have happened outside of this dais to seem to change the outcome of this. You don't have to accept this contract, but I can tell you when those things happen, it hurts your employees that work in the city. It hurts our desire to work here. It destroys our morale. It hurts our reputation. One of the vendors that is in this process, their reputation has been damaged because of this, and that's unfair to them. it calls into question the contract that we're putting forward. It calls into question whether or not it's a good, stable contract and whether the city is one that one would want to work for. It just doesn't look good. And I'm sorry to be so harsh about this, but it's very important to understand that when things like this happen, it's detrimental to everybody. It's detrimental to the people that sit up there, and it's detrimental to us back here. We've done the best work we can for the city. We have put forth our best efforts, and I believe that we are giving you the best value for this city. I believe that Polar Systems has come in strong. I believe they're an excellent company. I've met with them personally. I've walked them around the city. They know what they're doing. They have a very strong organization. They have the ability to bring our IT where it needs to be. We've been about 4 years with unstable IT. And having further unstable IT is not a good idea. I want to real quick touch on something else that has come up, and that's the length of the contract. It is pretty common, at least in my RFPs, to go for a 3 to 5 year contract with an extension. And that's because when you start out at a 1 year contract, that company has to come in, set everything up, take everything down. It's not good for them. So it's hard to get good vendors who only want a 1 year contract. It's also very hard on staff. I have to go out, it takes me about 4 months to run a proper RFP, plus this process puts it as 6 months. So you're talking about a 6-month process. And when we attempt to change a 3 year contract to a 1 year contract, all that work is for naught, because I'm going to have to start it all over again. On top of which, the RFP that I currently wrote is for a 3 year contract, and everybody that's bid on it has requested a 3 year contract. So I don't know that the numbers that are in here would be valid if we didn't go with a 3 year contract, if there was a choice to change it. And that's ultimately your decision. But I can tell you that the contract that has been bid on is a 3 year. I believe it's in the best interest of the city to give us stability for 3 years. I believe it's in the best interest of the contractor to have a 3 year contract so they can set up the first year, get us fixed up, and we can be stable at least for a couple of years before we have to start this whole process again. So what I've provided you, I believe, is the best possible contract from the best possible vendor from the RFP we ran. My staff did a fantastic job. My volunteers did a fantastic job, and they provided you with what I believe to be the right option, but ultimately it's your decision. I just wanted to let you know that some of the stuff that's happened has been very disappointing to a lot of us. But we still believe that what we've done is the best. Ultimately, your choice. Questions?
Todd, thank you for this evening, but also thank you to you and your team. You wear a lot of different hats. I got you. And I know that a couple of the directors have been asked to take on some additional roles, this being one of them for you. I think you did what was asked of you. I think your team did the right work and how it was supposed to be done. So thank you. And then thank your team as well for doing the work that they did on this. Those RFPs are not easy to do. And then to add additional things on top makes it that much harder. So I think this has been a properly done process. I have no problem with how it's been done. And I think that we are at the point where we need to approve a contract. So my question to you, so we talk about a 3 year versus 5 year.
Yep.
And I agree with the stability standpoint that is needed. You know, it's going to take a year, if not more, to get us stable. Is there a benefit to the 3 year versus the 5 year?
This is just personal preference. I do a 3 year with a potential 3 year extension.
Okay.
Up to 3 year extension. So one, assuming everything goes well through the 3 years, part of my job is to make sure that whatever contract you sign, that over these years it goes well, right? And if it doesn't go well, then we move on. But assuming it goes well and we like the vendor and things are stable and we're happy, and we do the numbers that Councilor Patton has asked for, there's the option to extend this for another 3 years if we so desire. So I like that option, gives us the option to change directions in 3 years if it's not doing exactly what we want, or if the math has changed. But also, if we really enjoy it, then to continue with the 3-year. Once you get past 6 years, then you start getting into the territory of you really should go back out for RFP because, it's a little long in tooth at that point.
No, and I know that that is something that the council a couple years ago said, that we wanted to make sure that we did a steady, at certain marks, that we didn't go much longer than 5-6 years before asking for another RFP process on the particular item. So, thank you. Councilor Patton.
Yeah, so I just want to say, I think that you've done a fantastic job with this whole process. I have no problem with the work that was done. And I am equally as disturbed at the attention and that this particular RFP has been given. And I think the undue influence that this has been subject to. We have never done it for any other RFP, and it upsets me a fair amount that this happened to this one. I hope that I am not in the bin of folks that have been having meetings. I don't think I have. I think I have discussed I think I've talked to Eileen about some thoughts about all of this in passing. But if there have been meetings behind the scenes about trying to influence this, that is ridiculous. And clearly some folks need to read the charter. So I just want to confirm, this ordinance is for a 3-year contract with a 3-year extension, or is what is this ordinance doing?
This is a 3-year contract. The contract allows for a potential 3-year extension, but that extension has to come back before this body.
Okay,
You
well,
can't just extend it for 3 years. It has to come back here.
where I was getting confused is you were mentioning 1 year, so I wasn't sure if this is for a 3-year contract with the potential of a 3 years of extension.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted that clarification,
Yeah,
because I would not be
this-
comfortable with a 1-year
This
contract.
contract cannot be a 1-year contract.
Okay, great.
That would be a go back to the drawing board,
Yeah,
because that's not the way it was written. So
Yes.
nobody bid on a 1 year.
okay, great.
Any other questions for staff? None? Todd? Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Yes, Councilor Patton.
I move to approve ordinance number 1623, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Polar Systems Incorporated of Westland, Oregon, to provide managed IT services for the city of Canby, to a second reading on June 19th, 2024.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilor Patton and seconded by Councilor Maldonado to approve ordinance number 1623, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Polar Systems Incorporated of Westland, Oregon, to provide managed IT services for the city of Canby, to a second reading on June 19th, 2024. Any further discussion or comment? Yes, Councilor Stearns.
I'm personally fine with the contract the way it is, but it seems like, and maybe I'm just me and my cluelessness, that somebody must have opposed it for some reason or another. I'm just curious if there's any legitimate reasons to oppose it out there, or if it's just something that the process itself was not liked. I mean, I'm just trying to, if all the, I mean, I don't know what happened, but if in the background something happened, I mean, somebody had something they didn't like, which I would think if that's the case, then somebody should say something they don't like about it, if there's something.
Sure, and again, that's why we have these meetings, and this is why these things come to us for conversation. And so if there was an issue with the process, now would be the point to bring that up and have that conversation. So that's.
I was just curious, even I wasn't, I know I didn't do it unless I was doing something in my sleep or something, I don't remember. But
No.
So I'm not sure if I have any personal objections, but if anybody in the council does have objections, it'd be nice to see if
We're
they're
not a full vote
legitimate.
tonight either.
No, that is correct. So we are down a counselor this evening, so,
Okay.
but With that being said, I mean, yes, this is whenever a topic or a contract or anything comes up, that's why it's on an agenda for us to talk about and bat around or express love for or displeasure with an ordinance or resolution. So if you're not hearing anything, then nobody here has that qualm.
Okay.
Okay. All right, any other comments or discussion?
I was the one that didn't like the length of the contract, and there was no secret meeting, so I don't know how I even got back to Mr. Todd, but that doesn't matter. I'm just going to abstain from this because I have more to think about. I'll make my decision on the second reading.
Okay. Any other comment, discussion?
Well, about the length of the contract, I'm just curious what
Well,
bothers
we
you?
gave the new vendor a janitor, just the janitorial services, a one-year contract, and with a new vendor, I was just wanting to do something shorter just to feel them out, but
Okay.
I said this to one person in my whole world, and so I'm not really sure where the idea of a meeting came about. I think somebody's paranoid.
Well, I mean, but I think that's a legitimate concern, because one of my concerns, when I looked at the contract briefly, there is, we can terminate it for breach and other things. Obviously, I was saying, don't get into something you don't know how to get out of. And it is sort of a leap of faith going 3 years. But I do understand a little bit about IT. I've been involved in software programming IT in my career off and on. And I do think it would be very difficult to set up and take down in a year. I think that'd be very, very disruptive. So, but I think I do share your concern. I just want to make sure that we're not just blowing over concerns.
No, it's good for vetting that. Thank you, Councilor Stearns. Thank you, Council President Hensley.
Mayor, may I just say one thing?
I saw your hand, sir, and I would gladly have you opine, if you will.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to also clarify, the city's contract, sort of the template we work with for these types of services allows for the city to have what we call a termination for convenience. So I just wanted to also be sure that was understood, that if there is an issue, even if it is has a term of 3 years or 5 years, with sufficient notice, I believe it's 30 days, the city can, for any reason, terminate an agreement. So, not suggesting that will happen here, but I just want people to know for the record that is always an option.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dufman. Appreciate it. Councilor Patton.
Yeah, so just touching on this, this thought of, comparing the length of this contract to a contract like the janitorial services. I would like to see the janitorial company and the IT company come in here and yard out all of their stuff and pile it up in the middle of the vestibule and see, which pile is higher and which pile takes longer to build. The 3-year contract, I am more comfortable with than a 1 year for this particular purpose, because if one thing we have learned is that in the last few years, we have had a lot of instability in this city for its staff and for its citizens. And for a contract like this, it just makes more sense to have a 3-year contract. We need some stability, and I'm hoping that by having this in place, it's going to at least start that process.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, there's a motion on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes.
So motion carries 4-0-1. Great. Todd, thank you. Thank you, council. Appreciate it. Next up is ordinance number 1624. An ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract with Axon Enterprises in the amount of $140,965.04 for the purchase of tasers, equipment, software, and services. George,
Again,
good evening.
Mayor and council.
Sorry, pardon me, Chief Tro, good evening.
That's okay. Police department needs to purchase some new tasers. A quick piece of trivia. Tasers comes from a book from 1911 called Tom Swift's Electric Rifle. just trivia, that's all. Interesting. I
No, it's always good to come to a council meeting and learn something new.
So a little background on tasers. We've been using tasers for about 15 years now. It's one of the best tools that ever been developed for law enforcement in a long time. Currently, we have 6 smaller contracts with Axon. You may recognize that name. Axon also makes our body-worn cameras and our in-car video. They are very good. They are really the only manufacturer of the taser that's being used in law enforcement. So this is to purchase the newest Taser 10 model. The new model, which is really cool, it integrates with the body cam system we're using. So when an officer deploys a taser and turns it on, it automatically turns on the camera on their vest. So which is really nice. If by chance the camera was forgot to be turned on, or it's something that's really quick, it automatically turns on and it captures the incident on video. Also, the new taser is more advanced. It has longer range, it's better accuracy, more capacity. So in the end, it provides safer outcomes for everybody involved with a combative subject. So the attached ordinance basically authorizes the city administrator to enter a 5-year contract with Axon. That's what they like to do, 5-year contracts, just like the body cam and the in-car cameras. And this is amount for $140,965.04 for the purchase of 30 tasers. First year cost is about $26,000, and it is budgeted in our current 24-25 upcoming budget. First payment is not due until we receive the tasers, which once we place the order with the contract, it's about 8 months out because they are backlogged. It's a really good design. And that's it. I recommend you approve this for Eileen to sign.
Great.
Any questions?
Questions for staff? Yes.
So it's a 5-year contract. So does that mean you're leasing the tasers or are you purchasing the tasers?
No, we really purchased the tasers over 5 years. They're
Okay.
just so expensive that they do this 5-year program, and that includes warranty. So if something happens to the taser, they replace it. It also includes some software that comes with it with the taser, because it downloads and it says when it was fired, what time, how long, and that sort of thing. So
they're close to $5,000 a taser, I guess.
that's a little bit more, right? I don't know.
5 times.
5 times 5 years.
Yeah,
So
5
30.
years.
You said 30 tasers you're buying, right?
30 tasers.
And it's 150, so.
Times 5 years.
That's 5 years.
Oh,
So it's about 30,000 a year for 5 years.
Yeah.
Altogether, 140, yeah. So yes.
Yes, Councilor Maldonado.
So not really a question or anything. I've seen the new model of the tasers. They are pretty darn cool, actually. Another fun fact is whenever they do deploy their tasers, confetti does come out of them with numbers and that are dedicated to the cartridge per officer. So they can tell who fired what. I was reading up on the new software for the Axiom cams, and it's pretty in-depth.
Yeah, it's really good. It
Yeah.
really is.
And I've also been, I volunteered to be tased by one back in 2008.
Not fun.
Very effective.
Yes, it is. I've been there, done that.
Yeah, very effective.
So many questions to ask Councilor Maldonado on.
My family back east is all law enforcement, so I was like, yeah, I'll volunteer. And I went through criminal justice with Johnson Junior College.
Okay,
So
there we go. Perfect. Any other questions for Chief Dro? Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll take a motion if anyone so wishes. Yes, Councilor Maldonado.
I move to accept ordinance number 1624, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract with Axon Enterprises in the amount of $140,965.04 for the purchase of tasers, equipment, software, and services. First reading.
Great, thank you.
A second.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Councilor Maldonado and seconded by Council President Hensley to approve ordinance number 1624, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract with Axon Enterprises in the amount of $140,965.04 for the purchase of tasers, equipment, software, and services for a second reading on June 19th. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Tro. Moving into old business, I don't think we have anything regarding the city attorney at this time.
No, you do not.
Okay. New business, item A, discuss possible cancellation of the July 3rd, 2024 City Council meeting. Eileen.
There is no business scheduled for that meeting at this point in time, and so oftentimes you do take that meeting off. So we are once again asking, do you want to cancel that meeting?
I move that we cancel the July 3rd meeting.
Okay. We have a first and second on that. Any discussion?
I would normally say we have a lot of things to do on work, not normally, but in this case, I would have said we have a lot of work sessions we could have, but I also am very mindful of all the time that our staff puts into the very next day. So I don't want them to have to be here. So I would say, yeah, let's take that one off.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that matter? Anyone? All right, all those in
We
favor?
need to have
Well, we have a motion on the table, so
Okay,
I will take a vote on it.
Aye.
All those in favor of canceling the meeting?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We will cancel the July 3rd meeting.
We'll see y'all on the 4th.
So second item of business is consider approval of the city administrator to sign the IGA between the City of Canby and the City of Molal's Police Department to provide behavioral health specialist services.
So George is going to cover this one. All I want to say is, and he probably was going to say it as well, but this is the intergovernmental agreement between the city, the two cities. The City of Molalla has already approved this agreement. So George, if you would just kind of
Yeah, just a
highlight.
brief overview. I know some of you are kind of informed about this already, but so the City of Molalla recently was awarded a 3-year grant to provide behavioral health services to the city. And as you know, we have a behavioral health specialist on board full-time for the last couple of years. And so they reached out about sharing this position with them on a 10-hour per week basis, so about 25% of his time to go to Molalla and help them with these services. Molalla will reimburse through this grant the city up to about $60,000, which is about 30% of his salary and benefits of our behavioral health specialist. We had discussions with our behavioral health specialist and with the city of Molalla police chief, and we think this is very doable, and we think it'll benefit both cities. Lake Oswego and West Lynn share behavioral health specialists for the last few years. We talked to them, and it works out very well. The biggest thing is when you need somebody like him, that if he's available. So let's say we have a situation where we need his services and he's in the city of Molalla, he would come respond to us and vice versa. So, and he would also be available for call out. And one of the things, if it's overtime for Molalla, they will reimburse us those costs also, and that's in the agreement. So I think it's a win-win for both cities. We could provide this service, and Brandon's actually pretty excited about, adding some more work to his load. And so, like Eileen said, we recommend this IGA.
So, Chief Drew, I think this has been one of our best additions we've had to, don't get me wrong, glad we have 2 officers, but in light of how mental health services have diminished dramatically across the state, it has been important to have this position on our police force. My question, because I thought, so please correct me if I'm wrong, was that we also have a partnership with Canby Fire for this officer?
Well, I mean, usually if it's Canby's Fire, if it's in the city, right, we're going to go anyways.
Right.
So that is part of it. If it's outside the city, first they contact Clackamas County to see if it's available, and if not, they'll reach out to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so how do we measure whether or not the workload becomes too much to where it's got to be
Yeah, Brandon,
on each
we have this
person or each
conversation
city?
with Brandon, right, and he's going to keep track and let us know how it's going. So we'll definitely monitor that for sure.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councilor Stearns.
I have a general question that, yeah, it's kind of on topic, but even if you're in Canby and you see somebody with a mental health episode, probably somebody who's homeless and maybe talking to some people that are out there, that sort of thing, what is the appropriate response for a citizen to do? Because that's something that's always sort of made me uncomfortable, because you think, well, this person needs help, but maybe not want help, or is there something to do, or is it best to leave it alone? or-
If you're concerned about the individual, call our Clackamas County Dispatch, and we would either respond with an officer or maybe Brandon directly, our behavioral health specialist, depending on the circumstance.
Okay, I'm just curious, because I think that maybe a lot of citizens have that same question, is what's the appropriate way to respond to somebody who, in your opinion, my uneducated opinion, seems to be having some mental health issues?
Yeah, more than welcome to call, and we can check it out.
Okay. And probably prefer not to be 911, but just regular dispatch?
Right,
Okay.
unless it is an
It's
emergency, yes.
yeah.
Any other questions on this matter? No? Okay. George, thank you. Again, I think this is a really good partnership between the two cities. I think it covers a need for Molalla that, in my conversations with Mayor Kaiser, they're very appreciative of this coming to fruition. So this is good. Yes, Councilor Patton, do you have a question?
I will just throw out there that non-emergency Clackamas County dispatch number is 503-655-8211. That number again is 503-655-8211. And I can tell you that I have contacted them many times for nefarious activities around my house and other places in the community. Stones in the middle of 99E and all sorts of other things. Someone wiped out all of the little white posts there on 99E by the intersection and the dip. And they've always been very, very, very good at taking the call quickly and then getting back to me with some sort of resolution. So that's the number to call.
Thanks.
Teresa, I think we had someone put something in the chat. I think, would you mind taking a look at it, and we need to read that into the comments? It's from our library director. That's okay.
Okay. Oh, she says, we have called Brendan for several issues at the library over the past few months, and he has helped with everyone in a compassionate way. We value both him and Canby PD so much at the library.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate that. So again, I don't think it's necessarily a motion, but consensus head nod, Eileen, is what you need?
A motion would
There's
be
a
good.
motion here.
There is. Okay, well then let's do that. Yes,
Then-
Councilor Patton.
I move to approve the city administrator to sign the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Canby and the City of Mollalla's Police Department to provide behavioral health specialist services.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Councilor Patton and seconded by Council President Hensley to approve that the city administrator sign on to the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Canby and the City of Mollalla's Police Department to provide behavioral health specialist services. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 5-0. Great. Thank you, Chief Tro. Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you.
Next up, so mayor's business, a whole couple of things. First off, I have an overdue letter that wanted to be read into, was sent to me and wanted to be read into the record here regarding FOB tap room and the parking lot seating. So it says, Canby City Council, my request to the council is to help me and undoubtedly others in the community to understand why the parking lot seating outside of the FOB tap room is still in place. The outdoor seating was appropriate and sensible during the pandemic to aid businesses in managing the many COVID restrictions. I'm sure the outdoor seating helped many businesses get through the pandemic. but why is it allowed to continue and in one of the most congested and smallest parking lots in Canby? I see this as a disservice to the people of Canby and to all that use the shopping area, especially in the poor weather months when the outdoor seating is rarely used. Add in the relocation of the handicap spaces, and it just doesn't seem right. Thank you to the council for providing a reasoning and better understanding of the situation, and that was submitted by Bob Wujek. So Eileen, I'll give this to you. I'll put it in the folder here at the end of the night. Jerry and Jamie, you're both here, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but FOB went through the proper permitting and planning department changes and planning pieces to be allowed to do the extra seating in that parking lot. There was a number of conversations with the property management company and the owners of the property to be able to make that happen. So it is their space as part of their business to maintain and uphold. And they dotted all the i's and crossed all the t's.
And they moved the handicap parking over, but it is there, and that, they did that even when it was temporary setup.
Perfect. Thank you. So next, I want to just give everybody up an update on, so had the Region 1 Area Commission on Transportation on Monday evening. We had a couple of updates. The one, just a lot, actually. The big ones for us in this area, one of the updates was on summer construction updates. So just give everyone a couple of heads up here. There will be 4 miles of I-5 in Southwest Portland closed June 28th to July 1st for repaving, and it's right around the Taylor's Ferry exit there. So that'll be closed and done in the evening. 82nd Avenue paving and safety improvements, and that's going to be between Foster and Lindy, and that will also be occurring here later this summer. The Abernathy Bridge, their next completion of segments that they're in the middle of right now, and I think that it will be completed and able to move into the next phase of adding the additional lanes on 205 by the end of 2025, providing that funding stays available to finish the project, or this portion of the project. Canby 99E paving will be done, as we've been told, end of October this year, and they seem to still be tracking that way, which is great. Highway 211, there will be safety corridor improvements here starting in the summer and going into the fall of this year. There was a letter that was being drafted by the Region 1 Act to the Oregon Transportation Commission. Maybe you know the legislature through House Bill 2017 a couple years ago directed the OTC and ODOT to look at funding sources for transportation throughout the state. And one of the major funding pieces was tolling. Through a lot of pressure from myself and a number of the mayors here in the Clackamas area, the tolling was put on pause. And so where we're at now is that the OTC, so the Oregon Transportation Commission body, is looking at going back to the legislature for different funding sources. So they're reaching out to different, in our case, the Area Commission on Transportation, to get our opinion or want our, I guess, feedback, because they're going to go back with a couple of different options. One is to revive tolling, stop the state transportation improvement funds, so we, otherwise known as STIF. So whenever we do a project within the city of Canby or any rural community, our really only shot at getting any money, which is federal dollars, to be able to do road projects, like we were talking at our urban renewal district meeting this evening, trying to improve sidewalks, walking paths, those kinds of things. The only money that we get a shot at is this particular funding source. And so what they're talking about is stopping all future funding of this funds, and that's to divert all that to completing 205 and then the Rose Quarter project. The other piece is to do that for future STIF funding and also remove the funding from current projects that have already been approved and have already started to be planned on for the, I believe it's the 2020, well, all projects using the state transportation improvement funds starting in this next fiscal year moving forward. So anything that's been funded, approved, they would pull all that funding, and that would be the sources of revenue or money that they would use to complete some of these highway projects that they're wanting to do. Or it could be a combination of all three. So again, we're looking at, as the Region 1 Area Commission on Transportation, what are those other pieces that I think I shared with you guys, with you all at the last city council meeting? What else do we go back to the legislature and say, hey, look at these things? So again, I said tolling would come back around, and here it is. So more to come on that topic. The 99E paving project, which is very great that I've got Jerry and Jamie here. They're talking about starting and doing paving here this summer. And so my question is there a way that we can coordinate with the event center and with the businesses along 99 to have a very solid schedule of what that, or as close to solid as we can get of a schedule, so that they're aware of the paving times that they're going to be hampered by, number one? And number two, is there a way, I know long shot, but ODOT, I've been very kind to ODOT these last couple of months, would love to be able to have them work with our event center, like around the fair and a number of events, to shift paving around of our events. Is there any conversation that we can have with ODOT, Eileen and Jamie and Jerry on this matter? I need all three of you.
Yes.
There is.
No, we will. We'll bring it up. Thank you for bringing it up. Well, K&E's great to work with, so is ODOT on this, moving stuff around.
Can I add one quick thing? They've already been in contact with Fairgrounds and Candy, and also for the Air Festival. So working out the traffic.
Thanks, George.
Okay. Thanks, Chief Joe. Appreciate it. So great, because I know I've had a couple of correspondence with a number of businesses on 99 expressing a lot of displeasure of having driveways blocked for their businesses for what they thought were longer periods of time than what was anticipated, and also not being necessarily communicated with them to plan for it. So if anything that we can do, I know that we had Paul here, I guess last meeting or the meeting before, about communication and wanting to make sure that they're helping us with that. That would be great to take him up on his offer. Thank you.
I'm just wondering, are there any updates? We do have a Highway 99E project page or linkage on our website, so are there any scheduling updates that need to be made to that page, perhaps?
It links to the ODOT page.
Oh, okay.
And they update, I think, every Monday.
Great.
Okay. I want to say thank you to our budget committee that we just moved through our budget season here for the city. So the budget committee is all of us up here on the dais, as well as a number of community members. So this year it did take all three meetings, and most of them went past 9 o'clock. The last one I think took us till 10 to get it all done and hammered out. But I do want to thank, we get the graciousness of doing that job, but having the community members volunteer their time to be a part of it is helpful and does mean a lot to the process. So I wanted to thank them for being a part of it. Tomorrow is First Thursday from 5 to 8 p.m. So please come on down. There's a lot of activity on First and Second Avenue, so please come check that out. Jamie, any special guests or special things going on for First Thursday tomorrow?
Let's come down and find out.
Ooh, well stated. She said, come down and check it out. That's all I can give you. I want to thank the Canby American Legion for the Memorial Day Remembrance at Zion Cemetery. It was a really good turnout, and it is always a very impactful sight to see the flags on all the headstones throughout the cemetery there. So if you've not ever been down and seen that, it's pretty moving. And then lastly, we had another comprehensive plan meeting. That committee met last week, I think, or the week before. We're moving into the portion of the comprehensive plan about transportation. So council, if you please pop some popcorn, get a soda, or another adult beverage, and please watch that if you can, because there's a lot of things regarding the transportation aspect of that we're going to be working on. So please take a look at that. And there will be additional community meetings coming up for the comprehensive plan. So I know those dates have been given, but the 20th of June is the next one. At Baker Prairie Middle School. Perfect. June 20th, Baker Prairie Middle School, 6 o'clock. Perfect. And that is all that I have this evening. That's plenty. We'll start with council. We're going to start in the middle and start with Council President Hensley.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, right? Everybody's going to be off filter now. I likewise attended the Memorial Day Remembrance Ceremony at Zion, and as always, it's a poignant moment to reflect on the sacrifices made for our freedoms. So I always attend that, and I thank them for putting that on each year. And unfortunately, there were some familiar names on the post-everlasting list this year. I last night attended the street maintenance fee meeting, but I'll leave that because I'm sure Jason Padden has plenty to say about that one. And I'll just say that I attended. I went to the chamber luncheon yesterday where they did the Best of Canby Awards. A lot of great businesses were awarded some recognition. And one of those was a new category that will lead me into my next liaison. And it was for Best Educator. And so Canby High School math teacher, Mr. Bob Weber, received the recognition of Best in Canby. And he is actually retiring from Canby High School this year. He'll continue to do his work at the college, but he did leave us all with a message that to us grown-ups and parents and adults in the room, that our kids need us more now than ever. So have conversations with your kids, find out what's going on in their world and in their school, and be aware of everything that's happening in their lives. And I thought that was a pretty good message. The CARE Award went to math teachers, well, from the Kiwanis group. They give that award monthly. Forgive me if I mispronounce her name, Ioana Baharis. I hope that's right. Anyway, if I butchered your name, I apologize, but congratulations to you. And Dr. Aaron Downs has taken a position at Sherwood for superintendent, so Mr. McKeon will be the interim as they go and search for a new superintendent for the school system. And, you know, I just got to tell you, it's almost time for school to get out and summertime to hit, so I just want to put everybody's reminders on. September 3rd is the first day of school. That's all I have.
It'd be a buzzkill. September 3rd.
September 3rd, first day.
Councilor Maldonado, anything?
No liaisons to report. However, I do want to give an update. I received word from Brian Haynes of Canby Music. Their daughter will be coming home Thursday. She still has a pretty long road of healing ahead of her. We do ask that we keep her in prayers. And again, reach out if there's anything that they need, please provide it to them.
Great, thank you, sir. Councilor Patton.
So I have not had my city stuff has not been as busy as it could have been. Because I've been doing a lot of work travel, I have not been in town for my liaison reports, so I am slacking off on that and need to smack myself around to deal with that. I did have a meeting with Christy from Canby Pride, and it was a very good conversation, and I'm glad that other members of this council and the mayor had a conversation with them as well. And then I'm going to be meeting with Amy Vinden, the treasurer of the group tomorrow. And so I've told them that if ever they have any questions or concerns, I am a counselor who's more than willing to speak to them and hear what they have to say. And then I will also, I've already told them that I plan to attend the Pride event on June 23rd in Way Park. I attended the Chamber Luncheon yesterday as well, and congratulations to all those that won awards, and best of luck to the folks for next year's awards. I unfortunately was not able to make the Memorial Day services here. I was in Packwood, Washington, helping my friend who is the director of the senior center up there feed a lot of people. I don't know if you've ever been to the Packwood flea market, but they essentially turned the entire city of Packwood into one gigantic flea market. And so it was a heck of a thing. So it was a very, very busy 4 days. Essentially from 6 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night, we were serving food. So it's been a long time since I've done that kind of work for that long. Let me see. Some other activities, I'll be meeting with the folks in Public Works to prepare, to finalize the information about the tribute signs to Frank Cutsforce during the cruising weekend around Way Park. So be on the lookout for those during the event. And then the Street Maintenance Task Force had their first meeting of the new task force the other night. I think it went very well. We got further along in the agenda than I had projected that we would, and actually started talking about some possible funding sources, and it was very interesting. The citizen members of the committee came up with some very interesting ideas on how to increase some funds into the streets program, ones that I had not ever really kind of thought about, so that was very interesting. I have a whole sheet of recommendations and stuff that we need to do some modeling on and such. So I'll be working with city staff on that. And then, so a big thanks to all those, Council President Hensley and city staff and the community that came out. I did talk to a few people who are on the list that weren't there. And so we're gonna work on, I'm gonna work with Jerry next time to make sure we contact all the members personally the week before the meeting to make sure that if they didn't reply to the doodle poll of what day will work best for everybody, that we make sure they know which day it is. And the next meeting is, we're gonna be proposing either the first, wait a second. The end of July, the first week of August. I was reading that backwards. And so by then, we should have, my suspicion is that by then, we'll really be able to sort of flesh out some of these models that they had recommended and start to come up with some good numbers. And if we don't have if the task force does not have a recommendation by that meeting, we should be able to have a follow-up meeting shortly thereafter and get a recommendation to council before the end of the year. And so with that, that's what I have.
Great. Thank you, sir. Councilor Sassy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I met with library, and they now have a community bulletin board right on the inside of the door for community events. So if you have an event, you can put it up on their board. They have a teen intern. He will start the week of June 17th. And their summer reading program started on June 1st. It's for all ages. Go into the library, get your reading log, and kids get a free book to keep to add to their own personal library at home. And my other liaison, baseball is done. We ended up 25-5, which is an excellent record. They went to the quarterfinals. And most of the players got first or second team league, and Coach Stolze got Coach of the Year.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's it. See you next year.
Councilor Stearns.
Well, I don't have anything to report for my liaisons. A couple things are on my mind, though, a little bit. I thought maybe we should have a chance to talk about it. One was that there was a train accident last week, and anytime something like this happens, I think it's a good idea to look around and see if there's any improvements that are in our power to be made to make things less likely. I don't think that we can avoid these things altogether or control people, but there may be some other things that are helpful. Especially the fact there's 2 lines going through, and a train from one might block the view from another, or maybe some education or other kinds of things. I'm really pleased that we're going to put a path on the pass on the logging trail down to the road, because that I think would alleviate some of the need for crossing the railroad tracks. But I think that a discussion should be made for that. I remember when I was a long time ago in the local fire department, anything went wrong, it was usually about a really long discussion afterwards. Pretty much a movie got to be made out of you, about you if you died, if you're a fireman at that time. So I just wanted to bring that up. The other thing on my mind was sort of response to what was said earlier. And I won't say anything for the union, but I won't say anything other than it's my understanding that the remedy that was requested is not something that we as a council have the power to grant. In other words, right now the city charter doesn't allow us to expel a council member, and I think that and of course, Mr. Dubin, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was our understanding. And so.
You're not wrong. That is correct.
That's correct. And so what I just would say is that it's important that if you want a remedy, that you ask the right people the right way. Otherwise, we can't do something. There are a lot of things I'd like to do, but it's not legal to do. And so without saying any more comment on that, I just want to communicate that with that particular remedy that was requested is not one that we can grant legally. So I just want to point that out.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Can I redirect? I forgot something that I wanted to say.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate the accommodation. I left my original notes at home, and so something just came to mind. There was another thing that I did attend, I believe it was last week, and Jason reminded me by bringing up the Canby Pride Group. And Christy already mentioned that the mayor and I had met with her, but also the following day after our meeting, they hosted the Department of Justice here at the library, and they came in and did an educational training on bias, crime, and incidents. And so it was quite a good information. It was kind of a light turnout, but I'm glad I went because it was some pretty good information, and I passed that investigator's card on to Chief Tro in case the fire department wanted to utilize any of their services or education.
Okay. Thank you all. Appreciate it. City Administrator business and staff reports. Ms. Stein.
I have nothing tonight.
What? Okay.
Well, maybe for the first
I will
time.
cross it out. Next item is another opportunity for citizen input. If anyone wants to address the council on anything from this evening or what they may have heard. Okay, not seeing anyone. Action review, Teresa.
You have approved the consent agenda. You have adopted ordinance 1621. You have adopted ordinance 1622. You have approved ordinance 1623 to a second reading on June 19th, 2024. You have approved ordinance 1624 to a second reading on June 19th, 2024. You have made the decision to cancel the July 3rd, 2024 council meeting, and you have approved the city administrator to sign an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Molal's Police Department to provide behavioral health specialist services.
A very full evening. Thank you. Before we adjourn, we actually can't adjourn. We can only go on hiatus because we do have an executive session this evening. So if someone would care to make a motion to go into exec session, I would greatly appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, we move into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660, parent 2, parent I, evaluation and performance of the public officer.
Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Maldonado to move into an executive session for the purpose of discussing the performance evaluation of a public officer, and it will be held under pursuant ORS 192.660, parent 2, parent I. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Canby, that passes. Canby, we're going to temporarily say goodnight. We are going to move into an exec session here, and if anything is decided, we will move back in later, but for now, we will say adieu, good evening, and see you in 2 weeks. Thank you all for being here.